Hello and welcome to another edition of The Right Stuff. I'm Ken Coomes, your host, a member of TV Toastmasters and Daylighters Toastmasters. And tonight I have the pleasure of interviewing Heather Ames, a mystery novelist, among other things. Welcome, Heather. I'm glad to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you.
So I'm curious about, for most people that write, I like to know, well, how did you get into writing?
Well, I started when I was 12. I won a novel contest at school. I was the only person that didn't go ahead and groan when our English teacher decided to think outside the box and give us a contest.
A novel contest at 12?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I think she wanted to take the rest of the semester off. So she just had us writing, and I won a bag of candy, which I needed like a hole in the head.
But probably enjoyed.
Yeah, I did. I shared it with everybody.
Good.
Yeah. And that's where I started, and then by the time I got into my senior year at high school, I was writing a couple of books. One of them, it was about a group of people. There were two sets of singers and musicians, and everybody in class was interested in what was going on. And they'd go, "What are you writing about next?" It was really pretty funny. And then I was writing a historical, and I went ahead and ditched the other one after I had gone ahead and tied that up and graduated from school. And then I kept writing this historical, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think it was 600 single-space pages. And then I called it The Turkey, and I finally threw that one aside. And during that time, you know, you go to other things, life interferes, and then I got married, and then I had children, and then I thought, I should look at that. And then I started tapping, and I wrote another like 200 pages on that thing, and then I thought, well, this is ridiculous. So then I went ahead and started taking writing classes, and I eventually threw that one out. I didn't want any of my children to go ahead and see it in some future year and think, should we publish this? No, you should not. So then I started to go ahead, and first I was writing short stories, but my short stories always grew into something much bigger, and I never was very good with short story writing. So then I started to write novels, and one person in the class with us was into romances. And we all got involved in romances, and some of those people from that class have had a 30-year career with Harlequin, writing 4 books a year and doing excellently.
Wow.
One person, I'm still in contact with these people in Houston. She wrote 70 books before she retired.
My goodness.
Yeah. The other one, like I said, has had that 34-year career. But even though I was agented twice, I never sold, because I couldn't go ahead and pigeonhole myself into that formulaic writing where, you know, by page 50 you have to have the first kiss, and then by page 100 something else has to happen. And I really was interested in mysteries anyway. So I thought I was going to go ahead and write for Harlequin Intrigue, but after I talked to the editor there, it wasn't going to happen.
They wanted formulaic writing as well?
Yes, and she was horrified about what I came up with to go ahead and open one of my books. By then I was agented too, and the agent thought it was great, and she said, no, this is too scary for our readership. And I was like, where are these people? You know, where are they living, back in the 18th century or something? And that book actually went on to get 2 contracts from small publishers. I was no longer agented at that point. And I accepted one of the contracts, and that was Indelible that came out. That was the 3rd book that I had published.
Indelible?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went ahead and switched the plot around a bit more, made it even more frightening for people, and gave them a heck of a ride, and people really have liked it.
Well, Stephen King made a living scaring people.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that. I don't like horror.
He didn't write for Harlequin either, so maybe that's the difference.
No, I don't think he could either.
Maybe writing for Harlequin would scare him. I don't know.
Yeah. Actually, I met Tess Gerritsen when I was up in Boston, and she writes medical thrillers.
Okay.
She started out with Harlequin intrigue. She wrote 2 for them.
Okay.
And when I met her in Boston, her first book, Harvest, came out in hardback. And she was in this little bookstore. It was a mystery bookstore. I don't remember the name of it. It was actually near Harvard.
Okay.
And I got to talk to her for quite a while. And then I pulled those 2 Harlequin intrigues out. And she was laughing, but she signed both of them as well as Harvest. And we talked a while about, her journey was very different from mine. She was a physician, and she didn't like being a physician. And she went in to see a patient, and there were 2 big bags of books on the floor. And she said, "What are these?" And she said, "Oh, they're romance novels." And she took them away and read them and said, "I think I could do this," like so many writers do. And she was correct, she could. And she's made a huge living.
Great. So she took a different path than you did.
Mm-hmm.
Probably didn't start at 12 if she was a physician, I'm guessing.
Yeah. But sometimes you don't find your niche where you think it is.
True.
And you
It
go on.
sounds like you had written, I think you called it The Turkey,
Mm-hmm.
and that was lying around when you were a mother and you didn't want the kids to maybe think it should be published.
Oh, now I
Right.
wouldn't want them to know.
But you published your first novel after they were grown or while they were still at home? Or
No,
how
they
did
were
it
still at home.
Okay.
I was going to a lot of conferences. I got very involved with Romance of Writers of America. I was coordinating local and national conferences. I ran for regional advisor and missed it by so little that they came and actually told me that the vote was so close that they almost did a recount. And I really enjoyed doing all of that. And I got to meet everybody. If it takes knowing people to get published, then I should have been multi-published because I knew everybody. But I still couldn't go ahead and get over that threshold. And then I put it aside for a while, and I actually started making documentaries when I was in Boston. I got involved with cable access up there.
Okay.
And I made 2 documentaries, and I really thought for a while I was going to do that. When I moved from Boston and went to LA, I started taking TV production classes at the local college, and I was working on an independent study, and I had shelved my writing.
Wow.
But
Well,
then,
Were you writing for television for what you were going to produce?
I was.
Writing as well.
yeah, just a completely different type of writing.
Yes, it is.
But then we had some problems with actually with health. I'm a healthcare worker for my day job, and we went through a really bad time when Medicare went onto this PPS system, prospective payment system, and it was I went ahead and my son had moved. We were in Orange County, and I got a chance to go ahead and get a house on the north side of LA, and I got a chance for a job transfer up to the Chatsworth office, and I just took it. And so economically it was really good for me, but then classes were on the other side, really on the other side of LA, and I ended up not finishing my independent study. So then I was kind of like, well, what am I going to do now? And then there was a big writers group up there. And so I joined the Alameda Writers Group, and suddenly I was writing novels again, and I pulled out a couple that I'd had. You know, you always have, I call it my backlist sitting in the drawer. And I looked at a couple of the ones that I had written, and I thought, you know what, these are really worth trying, because at that point, people were moving into those small press electronic publishers, and people were getting published who hadn't been published before. So I thought, well, let me throw my hat in the ring, and I had 2 successes pretty fast.
And those were without agents, right?
Yes, it was really quite astonishing. And one was a small romance that had been a very near miss. The only reason it didn't get published with Meteor was because she had just taken one with a similar plot line. So I was always either one step behind or too scary. It was either one, you take your pick. So when I got that one published, and then within about a year, that was in 2007, I think, 2008, I went ahead and one of my friends, she said, Heather, why don't you go ahead and send to my publisher? They had only limited amounts of time that they would open the door to new writers, and she said, it's open right now. Well, by the time she told me, there was a deadline of midnight. And I was learning how to zip a file at 11:45 that night, and here I was, and I got it done, and I sent it off, and I put, my cover letter was, I don't know what time it is where you are, because I don't know where your office is located, but here in California, I have 5 minutes before your deadline, and they took it.
Oh, well, that's an effective cover letter.
So then I had 2 books published, and then they got bought out by a larger small publisher.
Okay.
And they went ahead and published my 3rd book, and then they had trouble, financial trouble, and they gave me a contract for my 4th book, and then they hadn't assigned me an editor, and they hadn't given me a pub date, and I said, well, to myself, what's going on here? And then I got my rights back. And then, so then I went ahead and decided, well, things were getting shaky all over, and small publishers were closing left and right. So I decided I would go into the self-publishing market, because people were asking me, this was the 2nd book in my series. And I had readers asking, where's that book?
Where's the next book?
So what am I going to do? They've got my 1st book, and they still have the rights for another year. So I can't take the series and offer it somewhere else. So I self-published. And then I self-published the one that I was going to send them, that I was in the middle of revising.
Sounds like a great choice, and because we're just now going into the self-publishing part of your journey, a great place to take a break. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to an opportunity to take the next step of your professional speaking journey. I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever wished you were a star in a television show, or at an event where the media is interviewing bystanders and you are wanting to be picked to give your opinion of the event? Or even in the smallest sense, you're at a sports game and secretly hope that your smiling face would appear on that big jumbo screen TV? But the jumbo screen always finds the fans with the painted faces. And you think to yourself, maybe next time. Well, what if I can offer you a chance to be on TV? Would you take it? That is what I want to offer you now. I'm Dottie Love, Associate TV Producer and Director. Toastmasters International is one of the largest organizations whose mission is to help improve your speaking skills. And District 7 is expanding your opportunities to do speaking via television. We have 4 fully equipped television studios and TV Toastmaster broadcasts to over 500,000 homes, plus a YouTube channel. Who knew? We want to invite you to take advantage of using media and television, either in front or behind the scenes. Let me share a few options that you have. First, you can be a guest on a show. Highlight your business or hobby or your community interest. Anything you're passionate about. Be a featured guest. Secondly, you can train to be a host on an ongoing TV segment. We will train you for that. Third, what about creating your own talk show? We will train you for that as well and give you access to a community media studio to do just that. Or lastly, be behind the scenes, either running a camera or editing shows. You decide which avenue is best for you, and our TV Toastmasters team will help you to navigate to get the most out of your media experience. Personally, I've done them all. I started as a guest, went to hosting, up to directing my own TV show. I don't tell you this to impress you. I tell you this to impress upon you that your personal growth with Toastmasters is directly related to what you take advantage of. And I encourage you to be bold in looking for opportunities to stretch and grow. If this intrigues you, or if you have club members who you think that might be interested in this, please contact us here at TV Toastmasters. I'm Dottie Love, and you can reach me or any of us in the TV Toastmasters family at the contact information at the bottom of the screen. You can also find us on the web. Our website is 7512.toastmastersclub.org.
Welcome back to The Right Stuff. I'm Ken Coomes, your host, and I have Heather Ames on the show at this time. So welcome again, Heather. Glad to see you again. After our break, we were just moving into the self-publishing part of your journey.
Yes.
And I'm sure there are people out there that have thought about it or tried it and would like to know more about that. Can you tell us more about self-publishing?
A little bit.
Okay.
I'm still learning.
Okay.
Every time I self-publish something else, I learn a little more.
All right.
You're always on a learning curve with everything. The first time I was with CreateSpace, which has now become KDP. They
Right.
closed it down. And I started tinkering around, and I had to make a cover. That was my first attempt. And I thought I did pretty well, but my web designer was like, she had a few things to say about it, but people actually like it. I like the covers, the colors of it. She wanted me to do a wraparound, and I couldn't do that. It was beyond my level of expertise, and I wanted to get something out like within a year.
Okay.
So anyway, so I did that, and having an editor work with you, to a certain extent, I do editing freelance anyway, but you can't really edit yourself terribly well. So I use my critique group a lot. So I shot them off a couple of back blurbs, and they went ahead and looked at that and messed around with it a little bit with me, and I finally got what I wanted. And
Good.
so then I had the cover, front and back, and I already had, the book was done because the publisher had given me the contract. So I went through it one more time, and then I went ahead and got hold of a friend in LA, because then I looked at the formatting process and said, oh my God, that's another year while I learn how to format. And so I went ahead and emailed Tony, who had just gone ahead and self-published several books, because he got fed up with trying to go ahead and find an editor, to try to find a publisher. And he's actually done very well for himself.
Good.
His books are in bookstores, and he's now got a 1-year movie option contract. So he said, oh yes, people are very, in the writing community, people are very giving. And so he shot me over the names of 2 formatters, and I got in touch with both of them and went with one. And recently I actually went with the other one as well. And both of them have worked out for me.
That's
And
good.
so once I got that taken care of and had done everything else, then she was able to go ahead. She actually even uploaded for me, and we've got the book priced, and it was out. With the small publishers, they're pretty fast. Once they give you the contract, it's not like the big traditional publishers. You're lucky if you wait a year and then you see your book coming out. With them, it's usually something around 3 months, and sometimes even sooner, depending on where they've got slots to fill in that particular line. With self-publishing, you can upload in a week and you're done, as long as you get your ducks in a row. But I wouldn't go ahead and tell people to do that, because by the time you've gone through the blurb a few times and you've sent it back and forth with whoever you trust to go ahead and help you get that correct, because that's your selling platform. And if you don't have that one done properly, people are going to pick it up, and you can have the most beautiful cover in the world, but when they turn it over and go, then that's not going to get you where you want to go. So then that one was out, and already I was working on the other one, so then I went ahead and self-published that one too. And my web designer said, you're getting better with that cover.
Encouragement.
Yeah.
So what 2 titles were those self-published titles you're talking about?
So the series Indelible was book 1, and A Swift Brand of Justice was book 2. And the Big Doorstep book, I call it, which actually sells very well at festivals for some reason. I think it's because people think that it's a pretty good price for the size of the book, or maybe the blurb, or maybe actually the cover's okay. Who knows? That one's Night Shadows, and that's a suspense. The series is set in Florida, because I used to go back and forth to Florida. My ex-husband had family down there, and I have very good friends that live down there. So I'm able to go and research, and anything that I need, I can go ahead and ask them. I lived in Boston, and so writing Night Shadows and setting out up in Maine was, a no-brainer too, because it was easy to research.
I'm working through Night Shadows myself. It's a good read, and I'm enjoying it, and the New England flavor is captured well.
Yes, I love New England. I would be there still if it wasn't for the winters.
Yeah, the winters can be harsh.
Yeah.
Of course, Florida with some of the hurricanes, it's not much better sometimes.
No, it's not. So
where's home now?
Home is in Salem.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Portland. I was there for 10 years, and I actually retired from my job with the healthcare industry, and then I didn't need to be in Portland anymore. I decided it was getting really expensive, and I wanted to downsize.
Okay. Have you considered, or are you working on anything related to experiences in healthcare?
No, I completely stay away from that, except that I did go ahead and shoot one of the protagonists in one of my books. And so then I have, especially this one friend in LA, and she just blows things off. She's like, just go ahead and put it forward 6 months. He'll be okay. I was like, no, I really, really hurt him. I really and am working in the healthcare industry, physical therapy. I knew that he was going to have a long road to recovery, and everybody wanted this, what I thought was a standalone. I had 17 people in the critique group in my little living room in Northeast LA saying, this is a series. So then I had to go ahead and fix all of these things that I had had done, and get him back on his feet.
Did you unshoot him or do something else?
And I got him on his feet, but it did. I left those people in a mess.
Okay.
And I got them back together, and now I'm working on the 3rd book in that series, and so it's much easier in some ways, but I'm tackling things like PTSD, and it's an interesting road. I like to go ahead and, maybe because I spent so much time beating my head in the romance industry, but they do teach you to go ahead and look at what people's emotions do and how it impacts them and everybody around them. So putting that into suspense and thrillers and mysteries, you get all of that punch in the gut to go with everything else that goes on with my books. So, and the part of the healthcare industry, I think, is that gets in there. But as far as, no, I don't want to go ahead and write about people who are, do PT for a living. I was actually laughing with a friend yesterday on the phone, and I said to her, I read this book, and somebody hadn't done their research enough, and they had somebody coming in with a knee replacement, and they were coming into the PT clinic, and the PT gets a toolkit out and is down on her hands and knees with trying to go ahead and adjust the parallel bars, and I said, my God, all you do is you push a button and it goes up and down, and here she was with a toolkit. I said, if you did that, you'd never get anything done. And then she just started laughing, because she does dog therapy. I mean, it sounds weird. She takes a dog out and they do therapy. And so she goes to rest homes, and she's at a VA nursing home, and she takes the dog in, and they have a wonderful experience, but you have to be trained to do that. And she said that she met somebody who talked to her for an hour and then wrote a book on a subject of dog therapy. And she said she made so many mistakes in that book because she said all she got was this superfluous overview, and she was trying to write about a subject that she knew nothing about.
An hour is a very short time to try to learn about dog therapy.
Yes, and about any subject. I do a lot of research, but yes, getting out of your comfort zone and writing about things that you know nothing about, no, I try to stay away from that.
I think I've read authors who did their research, and that's enjoyable. And I've read those that didn't. And if I don't know the field, it might work. But usually there's something that glares even at me.
Mm-hmm. I actually like doing the research.
Yeah.
And the travel part of the research is wonderful.
Of course. I see we're just about out of time, Heather. I really have enjoyed talking to you. Maybe you'll be back on the show again sometime. I don't know. But I want to close the show now and let our guests know. We've been talking with Heather Ames. She's a suspense writer, a mystery writer. She's written romance. Her latest book is...
Well, I've got 2 reissues. So I got the rights back for Indelible and All That Glitters. And All That Glitters just got back out on Amazon, and Indelible will be back hopefully in early August. And then the 3rd book of my series, which is Swift Retribution, I'm hoping to have out in September if I can get back on track, because suddenly I wasn't doing 1 book, I was getting 3 back out.
There you have it. So Indelible is reissuing. We're just about to get the 3rd book in her series coming out. And September, if she gets back on track. Night Shadows is a good read. I'm in the middle of that one right now. But we've been talking with Heather Ames, talked about her journey, various kinds of publishing, agented and not agented. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll see you next time on The Right Stuff.